Hello and welcome. Today we are going to take a look at the stunning and compelling evidence for erosion in the Great Sphinx in Egypt. On the Giza Plateau in Egypt can be seen the magnificent statue known as the Great Sphinx, which defies the passage of time and appears to be guarding the incredible pyramid. Guardian of the pyramids, or just a symbol of the power of one of the many pharaohs that ruled ancient Egypt. But before we get into that, let's take a moment to listen to what some of the most influential people in this debate have to say.
Rainfall erosion on the Sphinx is a critical piece of the puzzle. It challenges the conventional dating of this iconic monument and forces us to reconsider our understanding of ancient Egypt. I believe that the rainfall erosion on the Sphinx presents a significant challenge to the conventional dating of the monument, leading us to question our comprehension of ancient Egypt. By examining this erosion, I suggest that it may indicate a much older age for the Sphinx, potentially redefining its purpose and significance within the context of ancient Egypt's history.
The application of geological analysis is of crucial importance in this discussion. To have a better understanding of the effects of rainfall erosion and its scope, we need to investigate the rock formations that surround the Sphinx. By examining the rock formations surrounding the Sphinx, we can assess the extent of rainfall erosion and its impact on the monument. This geological analysis can provide valuable insights into the age of the Sphinx, challenging traditional beliefs. If the erosion patterns suggest a much older age, it would not only redefine the purpose and significance of the Sphinx but also reshape our understanding of ancient Egypt's history.
The beginning of our story takes place in ancient Egypt. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the world's largest sculptures, reaching around 240 feet in length and 66 feet in height, and it is estimated to weigh a phenomenal 20,000 tons. It has the body of a lion and the head of a human, who is wearing a typical Egyptian headdress. It is one of the most famous and puzzling buildings in the world, and it is carved from a single huge block of limestone. According to the majority of Egyptologists, the Sphinx dates back to the time of the Old Kingdom, which occurred around 2500 BC. The majority of Egyptologists believe that Pharaoh Khafre, who is thought to have ruled from 2558 BC to 2532 BC, was responsible for the construction of the Great Sphinx. However, the length of his reign does not appear on the Turin King list, nor does any inscription relate Khafre to the Great Sphinx for some inexplicable reason. This has led to some speculation and debate among Egyptologists about the true origins of the Sphinx. Some alternative theories suggest that the Sphinx predates the Old Kingdom and was built by an earlier civilization. Others argue that it may have been constructed during the reign of a different pharaoh, or possibly even by multiple pharaohs over a longer period of time.
The Sphinx is said to date to the time of Khafre. The Sphinx's close proximity to Khafre's pyramid temple complex and some resemblance to the facial structure visible in his statues support this. The Great Sphinx of Giza may have been carved out as a guardian of Khafre's pyramid and as a symbol of royal power. It became deified during the time of the New Kingdom.
However, other researchers, such as John Anthony West, Dr. Robert Schoch, and Graham Hancock, propose a date that is significantly earlier due to the evidence of rainfall erosion that was discovered on the enclosure that surrounds the Great Sphinx. When you take a closer look at the Great Sphinx and the enclosure of the Great Sphinx, you will see that there are some unusual irregularities. These irregularities include deep vertical grooves that are consistent with water erosion, suggesting that the Great Sphinx might have been built during a time when the climate in Egypt was different and much wetter. Just to have an idea, you can see the difference between wind and water erosion on limestone on screen right now. Do you see any form of correlation between these different signs of erosion compared to the erosion found on the Great Sphinx? Let me know below in the comments. This discovery challenges the commonly accepted theory that the Great Sphinx was built during the Old Kingdom, around 2500 BCE. Instead, it raises the possibility that this iconic monument could be much older, dating back to a period when heavy rainfall was more prevalent in the region. Further research and analysis will be crucial in determining the precise age of the Great Sphinx and shedding light on the ancient climate of Egypt. This challenges the traditional belief that the Great Sphinx was constructed during the Old Kingdom period. If the proposed earlier date is accurate, it would mean that the power and significance attributed to the Great Sphinx go even further back in history than previously thought. The debate continues among researchers, each bringing their own evidence and theories to support their claims. Some researchers argue that the erosion patterns on the Great Sphinx suggest that it was carved during a period of heavy rainfall, which occurred thousands of years before the Old Kingdom. They believe that this indicates a much older age for the monument. Additionally, others have pointed out similarities between the Great Sphinx and other structures from the pre-dynastic period, further supporting the idea of an earlier construction date. There are still those who contend that the conventional Old Kingdom theory is accurate and that the supporting evidence for an earlier date is insufficient. The ongoing debate highlights the complexity of archaeology and the challenges of accurately dating ancient structures. It is essential to bear in mind, first and foremost, that the Great Sphinx has been covered in sand for an amount of time that cannot be determined. These vintage photographs from the 1800s clearly show that only the top of the head was visible above the sand. The first excavations of the Great Sphinx were carried out as far back as 1400 BC. Nevertheless, it wasn't until 1936 that the Sphinx was uncovered and brought to its current state. Despite the extensive restoration work done in 1936, the Great Sphinx continues to be affected by erosion. The constant exposure to natural elements has led to the deterioration of the Sphinx's features, particularly its body and head. Efforts have been made to preserve and protect this ancient monument, including the construction of a protective enclosure around the Sphinx. However, ongoing maintenance and conservation work are necessary to ensure the longevity of this iconic structure. Over the course of thousands of years, the Great Sphinx has been subjected to extensive renovation. According to the writing on the Dream Stele, which was discovered between the paws of the Sphinx, the first major restoration of the Sphinx was carried out around 1400 BC by the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose IV of the Old Kingdom. This occurred almost 1,200 years after the monument was supposed to have been carved out of that limestone knoll on the Giza Plateau. In addition, the pharaoh describes a dream he had in which the Sphinx asked him to grant her freedom from the sand that covered her body in return for the throne. The so-called inventory stele contains references to renovations made around 500 BC. The Sphinx's head, back, and tail were augmented with additional blocks. In 30 BC, during the time of the ancient Romans, the paws of the Sphinx were repaired, and additional, smaller blocks were added to its sides. It is essential to note that the Great Sphinx was consistently uncovered from the sand during each phase of restoration. Before Emile Barrès began the subsequent phase of conservation in 1925, many centuries had passed. For almost 11 years, Barrès cleared the area around the Sphinx to free it from sand. The dimensions of these undertakings had their only precedence in the reign of Thutmose and in the Roman period. Barrès' clearing operations revealed that a crack located at the top center divided the Sphinx into two parts. The head was in bad condition. On the top of the head, there was an expansive passage that the workers were standing in to indicate its size. So, as one can see, Barrès' efforts to clear the area around the Sphinx were not only aimed at uncovering its true form but also at assessing its overall condition. The discovery of the crack and the deteriorating state of the head raised concerns about the stability and preservation of this iconic monument. Additionally, the workers' presence in the expansive passage on top of the head provided a visual representation of the Sphinx's massive scale. Geologists, like Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University, have researched the geological layers that are located around the Sphinx in order to gain greater insight into this mystery. They have found that the patterns of erosion are similar to those seen in regions that have a history of heavy rainfall, which is somewhat perplexing given that Egypt has not seen heavy rainfalls for thousands of years. Robert Schoch's geological research has brought a fresh perspective to the debate. His findings have challenged established narratives and sparked new avenues of exploration. Water erosion, typically associated with more humid climates, can be found on the body and enclosure of the Sphinx. The most prominent evidence is the weathering profile, a series of vertical and horizontal fissures that resemble the effects of wind and water erosion. Now, to cause such water erosion on the Sphinx enclosure, you need much more than small, scattered showers. It is important to note that no heavy and sustained rainfall has been recorded in Egypt for at least 9,000 years. Despite the substantial evidence supporting the rainwater erosion idea, it is crucial that we take into consideration a variety of perspectives. Chemical exfoliation of its surface rock. Moisture causes salts in the rock pores at the surface to crystallize, stressing the rock surface. The physical action of wind and rain then wash away the weakened rock, exposing new rock to weathering. Factors such as wind erosion, sand erosion, airborne salts, seismic activity, and vibrations due to vehicular traffic have been considered. Before we continue, let's take a moment to appreciate the contributions of John Anthony West, who passed away in 2018. His work on the Sphinx has left an indelible mark on the study of ancient history. John Anthony West was a pioneering figure in the field of ancient history, particularly in his research on the Sphinx. His groundbreaking theories challenged traditional beliefs and opened up new avenues of exploration. The collaboration between John Anthony West and Robert Schoch was instrumental in changing the way we understand ancient history. West's groundbreaking work on the Sphinx prompted Schoch to conduct geological research, which ultimately supported West's theory. Together, their efforts have not only reshaped the study of ancient civilizations but also inspired a new generation of researchers to question conventional wisdom and delve deeper into the mysteries of our past. Graham Hancock arrived at the Great Sphinx as a result of his investigation into long-vanished civilizations and ancient mysteries. Hancock's relentless quest to learn the secrets of our distant past served as the driving force behind his journey to the Great Sphinx. His tireless consider subscribing.